story. I really gravitated towards what it was, and sometimes I felt like a weird kid because of it.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, I really enjoyed everything about it. The colors, the intensity,
Hmm.
how fans reacted to it. It was just so to me, it was just so larger than life. And it was real. It was more real. It was real people
Hmm.
versus where comic books and superheroes were fantasy at the time. So that's really what I take from the early stages of me being a wrestling fan.
I love that. Yeah, 93 was a weird year because yeah, that was WrestleMania 9, so
Hmm.
that was yeah, Hogan coming in at the very end and then leaving by yeah, he left at King of the Ring and then I think he went right to WCW after that. I could be wrong, but I mean, you were just watching WWF, so
Hmm.
well, when did you realize that there was other wrestling out there? Because you grew up in Pittsburgh, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, Bruno Sammartino obviously is, the next level of what wrestling was and what to some people should be coming out of Pittsburgh. Was when did you find out about Bruno Sammartino? And then also, like I said, when do you find out that there's other wrestling out there?
Yeah. So my dad grew up as a wrestling fan,
Okay.
and I was always familiar with the name, but it was kind of hard back in, I would say, even in the early '90s to find tape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because there
If
wasn't
it
any.
if it wasn't in a video rental
Hmm.
store, it's pretty hard to come by. But I'm sure there were some things that I saw of him, some kind of clips or footage at some point in time of him. But a lot of what people thought of wrestling, especially in the early '90s, whenever you said wrestling, oh, Bruno, 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 that
Hmm.
that, that was true in Pittsburgh. Um, just because of that's how it was. Um, but I was familiar with other promotions. There were some promotions, of course, that like WCW, of course, whenever they got their TV deal and they were on like Saturdays. Like I remember WCW Saturday night, here and there. Basically, whenever something wasn't on that wasn't WWF and I was home and there was wrestling on, I would still watch it. I had a neighbor actually who lived across the street from me. He was more of a WCW fan. So we kind of got the best of both worlds, especially at that time when people were kind of going back and forth. But I did go to some. I remember going to a WCW live event whenever I was a kid, and I just enjoyed wrestling.
Right.
Really, it's I stuck more with WWF all throughout, the Attitude Era. Even whenever they were losing, I still was a WWF fan. I didn't really like the WCW product.
Hmm.
I don't know what it was. I think I just felt loyal to the people that I liked in WWF. I don't know, but I am familiar with it, and I probably would say that I watched a little bit more of it before the the Monday Night Wars got more in depth. But I do remember watching a lot of Saturday Night because at that time there wasn't any WWF that was on Saturday night.
Right.
So and that was of course before like Shotgun and all that, but that was also a little different because that was at late at night.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, and I was familiar. I didn't really get too much into like independence until I don't even know when I would say I got into independence. Probably wasn't too familiar with a ton of independent until about 2001 or 2002.
Mm.
And I really wasn't even that familiar then. Like there was a local affiliate that had some TV that was just local wrestling, but I mean at that time some of the camera work for these local shows were just it was rough. It was just a different time because you never know what you were gonna get from either the quality of the camera, who's doing the footage or whatnot. But the first independent show that I remember going to, I think it was in like '99 and it was a benefit show. I can't remember who the benefit was for. Part of me wants to say Brian Pillman, but I don't think it was. I think it was a referee that was local to the area, the Pittsburgh area. And
Mm.
like I said, I could be completely wrong. The main thing that I remember in seeing this independent show was it was actually a few different workers from a few different promotions that kind of came together for the show. And there were some ECW guys there. There were some WCW guys there. I think there maybe had was it like were a WWF guy or two there.
Mm.
Um, and I remember that was my first introduction to Shark Boy,
Oh, that's awesome.
and that was one of the first times I saw like a wrestler that wasn't I've never seen on like on a TV show, and he had a different look because it wasn't something that you saw all the time, and even whenever he was early on in his independent career, he was so good at standing out, and it was so cool whenever he started doing stuff with TNA,
Mhm.
and he got some of that fun spotlight. And obviously, like he has a name in wrestling. Like people know who Shark Boy is.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really cool to see, kind of like the beginnings of it all, and then see where it went from there.
That's awesome. You got to see Shark Boy so early on too, because
Mhm.
like you said, there's so many people who once they do find about the independence, I mean, now it's so much easier to find out about them. But
Oh yeah,
like you said, when we were growing up, they were very far in between. You'd maybe see a flyer on the ground or a window or something, and you're like, whoa, what is there's wrestling? What is this? So the
right.
fact that you got to see that, and then yeah, the way he just blew up with TNA, and of course the whole Steve Austin thing was great that he did. And then I really wish at some point they had actually find a way to do Steve Austin and Shark Boy together, maybe at a convention or something, but maybe down the line.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned you were in a tag team with the Runway with Tyler Klein, but you've been together since 2019. What is it about? What is y'all's chemistry, and how did it was it just instant, or was it something you guys had to build on?
Yeah. So we actually became friends because we felt like our characters were similar. We had kind of a similar vibe on what we wanted to do and how we wanted to portray ourselves. Um, and it got to a point where he ended up moving to Pittsburgh, and we just kind of started like, okay, let's just, if we're gonna do this, let's do it. We tried it out at a few shows, and it just worked. Like, I don't want to say it was kind of like we knew what the other one was thinking, but from all the other tag teams that I was in, and who I've tagged with in the past, it really was kind of something that stuck. Like, it just made sense. Um, we kind of had some initial chemistry in the ring, and we've obviously built on it since then. But no, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. We kind of had that natural chemistry, and we had an idea of where we wanted to go and what we wanted to do. And we still have similar goals with what we want to reach as a tag team. And I think it really brought the best out of both of us, being in a tag team, and being able to promote ourselves as a tag team. Um, it really felt like it gave me something to sink my teeth into, that somebody else wanted to invest in me as much as I wanted to invest in them and a brand. And I think that's kind of what sets us aside is, yeah, we can both have singles matches all day, but whenever we're together, that's what you want to see.
Right. Well, so where did the idea to be the fashionista of pro wrestling come from? Did pro wrestling come first, or did your love for fashion come first?
Um, well, that's a loaded question. And I don't know if I've ever been asked that before, to be honest with you. um, so I've always, well, not always, I don't want to say that. So I really have always been into different looks, different color combinations. I never really explored myself in fashion, but I've always had a love for it, and I've always
Mm,
enjoyed, helping people or giving my 2 cents in on how someone, if someone asked me how they could improve or what they thought of something that they're wearing, I really like to to give them the opinion. So I really never thought about this question, but I think I always did have a love for looks and putting together outfits, even though I never realized I did until right now. Because I didn't like. I mean, growing up, you don't really, you just kind of do whatever. Like,
Right.
it's not, I don't really even remember buying clothes for myself until I was like in my maybe like my early teens, like, you know, maybe before that. I don't really even really remember that much. Um, when it came to that. But I would say my love for, I would say wrestling came first and then the fashionista came after.
Interesting. So you obviously do keep up with what the fashion is and what is either going to be in trend or what is passing as we speak.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So there are some trends that I can't stand.
Like what?
And I like lately I've seen a lot of like I don't want to say bland colors because that's not a lot of neutral colors.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, I think black is a great option and can look good on anybody, but I've just hated lately seeing all this like black, beige, tan, um, just very just like I don't know. I love some color. I love some
Yeah.
pattern. And I
Same.
know color and pattern aren't always a thing. And of course, different times of the year it's different, but I don't know, there's just some things where I really enjoy and I just don't. I do it's kind of funny because I think jeans are getting baggier, and while
Uh-huh.
I'm not a fan of the baggy jeans myself. Let's just say that. I
Okay.
do think there are some people that can rock it, but I think that skinny jeans are uh, you need to find a happy medium. You can't be doing both. There needs to be you need some room to breathe in them. Um, but no, and I think I'm not completely I like looking at some of the trends, but the thing with trends whenever it comes with men's fashion a lot is I think a lot of men's fashion is timeless with
Mm,
some you can do some spurts of color. Women's fashion is a little different because it is constantly changing and things are constantly coming back and going out of style. But what's nice about fashion and what I enjoy about fashion is you can choose how you want to look and what you want to put out there and what you feel good in. Lately, I've been noticing that my fashion sense has been changing a little bit, whereas I more so want to keep the things that I feel good in. And I think everyone should have things that they feel really good in. Nothing is worse than putting something on. You have an outfit together in your head and you put it on right before you're ready to go and it is not what you want and you have that mini freak out in your
hmm.
head about what am I going to do because this is what I had in my head and this is what I thought was going to work. But no, I do try to keep up with the fashion trends and it's so interesting to me how stuff comes back and
Hmm.
what comes back and what doesn't come back. I think that is something that it's very interesting, especially now seeing the early tens, some of those trends coming back, and it's only been what 10 years. It's wild
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. And it's funny living through the 90s and seeing so much of that's coming back now too. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's time enough now.
100%.
Well, so as we enter, as we're recording this, it is middle September. So we're entering the fall and winter time. Fashion wise, what do you see? What should I'm going to put this out to the wrestling fans because, as we talked about earlier, a lot of them, will say don't know how to dress themselves. What do you think is some staples and some things that we'll say wrestling fans, but if people are not wrestling fans, but they're listening to this, thank you for listening. What should people have in general in their closet, or what should they be wearing so it's not just jeans, t-shirt, hoodie, whatever?
Oh yeah, of course. So, um, I personally, for me, I think everyone should have um, 2 to 4 pairs of denim that they can go to, especially in the fall.
Hmm.
A darker wash. I think you should have a darker wash, a black wash, a medium wash, and then I always say a lighter wash just year round. Um, that's what I always that's what I would recommend to people, and that's what I think. And I know some people will disagree. They don't like certain washes or whatever.